Okay, everybody. Today we're going to learn directional terms. In anatomy, it's very important that you identify which plane you're looking at, which surface you're looking at, from what perspective you are viewing a body part or a body or a structure. In college, for undergrads, there's a course called medical terminology. Now, in most college courses, you meet 2 or 3 times a week for lecture and lab. If your course has a lab, you have a few tests scattered throughout the semester, and you have some homework assignments and labs and whatever. In medical terminology class, the entire course, the whole thing, is one exam. Normally, a semester is 16 weeks. This is one exam. And it is all about medical terminology, Latin prefixes and suffixes and other medical terms. If you take my AP Bio classes, you remember taking those Latin quizzes. I got about 275 Latin affixes for my AP Bio students out of 2,000 that I had to know for that course and to pass that exam. This class is very, very vocab heavy. Now, if I were to tell you that you're going to learn several thousand terms this school year, that seems very daunting. But so does telling a 5-year-old that you have to take 13 years of school. You can't do it all at once. Take it piece by piece, take it day by day. And that's how we're going to approach this. You will be learning a couple thousand more terms this year in your vocabulary, but we're not going to do them all at once. We're not going to do them in a week. We're not going to do them in a month. It's going to be over the course of 10 months. So today you're going to get at least 14 new terms to add to your vocabulary, and they're called directional terms. A lot of these terms are antagonistic to each other. Antagonistic means opposites. When one works, the other is not. So we're going to have 7 pairs. Pop question. How many is 7 pair? 14. Easy. Thank you. 14 terms. So here's the first pair. Superior and inferior. Superior means above. The sky is superior to the ground. Your brain is superior to your heart. And then inferior means below. Your bladder is inferior to your lungs. Your knees are inferior to your pelvis. The president is superior to the vice president, or you could say the vice president is inferior to the president. It just means above or below. Now, 2 terms that are nearly identical to these is going to be cranial and caudal. Cranial means towards the head. You know another way of saying that is? Up or above. Cranial and superior are synonymous. A synonym is 2 words that are different, at least the way they're spelled, but they mean the same thing. And then caudal means towards the tail, which means basically where in a body is the tail located? Pretty much on the downside, on the backside, lower. You don't need to draw this, everybody. You do not need to draw this, but if you were to look at like a fish, you know what the name for the tail fin really is? The caudal fin. Okay, let's do 2 other pairs that are very close in their meaning. Number 3, remember there's 7 total pairs of terms. Number 3 is going to be anterior and posterior. Has anyone ever torn their ACL before? Lucky you. What do you think the A in ACL stands for? Anterior. It's the ligament in the front of your knee. What do you suppose the P in PCL stands for? Posterior. ACL stands for your anterior cruciate ligament, and PCL is posterior cruciate ligament. The ACL is in the front of the knee. The PCL is in the back of the knee. So anterior means front side or just front, and posterior means back side or just back. What do you call, what does PS stand for? You're writing a note and you got PS. Anyone know what PS stands for? Postscript. Does that come before or after your note? Post. Comes after. Okay, number 4. We have ventral and we have dorsal. I saw some dolphins off Bayshore. I could tell when I saw their what fin? Their dorsal fin. Where's their dorsal fin located? On their back. Ventral generally means belly side. Dorsal means back side. Now you might be thinking, well, that's the same thing as posterior. It depends. It depends. I'm going to show you right here now. It depends on what type of animal you're looking at. Anterior and ventral can mean the same thing depending on what type of animal you are looking at. Posterior and dorsal can mean the same thing depending on what type of animal that you are looking at. So let's draw a human, okay? Oops. Okay. Is a human being a quadruped or a biped? How many is bi? And what does ped mean? Legs or feet? Like when you put your feet on the pedals. A biped is a two-legged animal. Whenever you're looking at a two-legged animal like a human, anterior and ventral are the same thing. Posterior and dorsal are the same thing for two-legged animals. So right now I'm looking at all of your ventral surfaces and I'm actually looking at your interior. The interior just means the front. If you go out in the front of your house, you're looking at the interior of your house. But let's take a look at a four-legged animal. Like a crocodile. Okay. I'm going to put a surface in brackets. You tell me what it is. What is that surface? That is the ventral surface. Very good. What is that surface? That is the anterior. What is this? That is the dorsal surface, the back. And then back here, that is posterior. So as you guys can see, it's different depending on what type of animal you are looking at. But I have a wild card for you. After you're done with this, I'll draw one more. See if you might be able to figure it out. So a quadruped, dorsal and posterior are not the same. anterior and ventral are not the same, but for a biped, they are. So here's the wild card. Let's see what you might be able to make of it. Okay, so are posterior and dorsal the same thing?
No.
Correct, they are not. Dorsal, posterior, ventral, anterior. So you really, when I say biped, I mean you're standing straight up, like us. Dinosaurs didn't stand straight up. They bent over like birds. All right. Are there any questions so far? 4 pairs down, 3 pairs to go. Okay, number 5. We have proximal. And we have distal. Okay. Proximal means towards the body. And distal means away from the body. So for all of you to see, I have a human arm with the bones. This is we call this the skeletal bones of the arm. And for those of you watching online, I'll try to do a drawing of this. Let's see. I'm not the best bone drawer, but this will have to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 carpals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 metacarpals. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Perfect, sort of. Okay, guys, this is your humerus. You all don't need to write this. This is for people at home. This is your ulna. This is your radius. This is your carpals. You have 8 of those. Here's your metacarpals. You have 5 of those. Metacarpals. And in each hand and each foot, these are your phalanges. You have 14 of them. Now, I want to focus in on this part for all of you in class right here, right where your humerus clicks into your shoulder. Would you call this the proximal end of your humerus or the distal end of your humerus? Humerus right here. That's the proximal end. What would you call the distal end? What body part? The elbow. That is correct. So on the video, that is the proximal end of your humerus bone. And there's your distal end. Okay, so most bones have a proximal end and a distal end. Not all of them, but most of them. The side that's closer towards your body and the side that's further away from your body. So you could go to the doctor and they could say, you have a hairline fracture on the distal epiphysis of your right humerus. Whoa. These ends are called epiphyses. That's an epiphysis. This is an epiphysis. So if I have a crack right here or a fracture, they're going to say you have maybe a fracture on the distal epiphysis of your humerus on the right arm. Right there. That's where they know where to look. That's what the point of all these terms is. They know where to look. Any questions about proximal or distal? Okay, 2 more. Pair number 6, we have deep and we have superficial. Oh my God. Becky is just so lame. All she cares about are her looks. She's so superficial. Superficial is like the outside. Some people say that's being fake. It really matters with what's in here. So if Kylie was in an accident and said, oh my gosh, Kylie, are you okay? Yeah, just superficial injuries. What would that mean? It's on the surface. Skin, scratches, maybe a scab, a little bit of bleeding, nothing big. So superficial generally means on the surface. And deep is pretty self-explanatory. It's going to be inside. Carson, you got in a car accident. Are you okay? No, not really. I have some deep injuries. Like that could be organs, blood vessels, bones, tendons, ligaments. Definitely not as innocuous as superficial. When you hear, there are some victims in the building collapse, only superficial injuries were reported. Scratches, maybe some bleeding, nothing major. All right, and finally, number 7. We have medial and we have lateral. Medial is towards the midline of the body. If you were to put a dotted line right down the middle of your body, let's call that the median. Towards that line is going to be medial. And then lateral is going to be towards the sides of the body. Lateral means sides. You all know that big muscle that's on the sides, but it's also on your back. You know what that muscle is called, like right here? It's called your latissimus dorsi. When people do pull downs like this in the gym, they're working out their lats. Lats mean sides. How about this? I'm not just going to show a prop because there's people online that need to see. So here's a little figure, and they damaged their ligament right here. Is that on the inside or the outside of their knee? And when I say inside or outside, is that the inside of the leg right here? Or is it on the outside? It's on the outside. So would you say this is a medial injury or a lateral injury? Lateral. And you may have heard of a ligament in your knee called the LCL. The first L stands for lateral. Lateral collateral ligament, LCL. That's a ligament that holds the outside of your knee together. So what do you think the ligament is called on the inside of your knee? The MCL, the medial collateral ligament. They say Tom Brady played most of last season with a partially torn MCL, the medial collateral ligament. Helps hold your knee together. Here's another example. Here's the earth. What do you call the lines that go side to side? Latitude or longitude? Latitude. That's where they get this name from. Lats. When I was in high school, we had to play football. Our coach would say, okay, we're going to do some lats side to side. You got to go like this. Side to side, lats. You're moving laterally. All right. And that is all 7 pairs, everybody. Are there any questions? Okay.